What's going on, everybody? Welcome to 30 Minutes to Unwind. I'm Corey. Whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, I'm glad you decided to stop by. Today, we're going to discuss selfishness and self-preservation and how it relates to your daily routine. But before we get into that, I want to revisit a few things from last week. Last week, I talked about the NFL wildcard weekend. I picked my Steelers to go all the way, but boy, was I wrong. The Steelers lost, and the next day, Mike Tomlin resigned after 19 years as the Steelers head coach. Now Pittsburgh is looking for their fourth coach since 1969, and that's pretty impressive to me. But now we have to see which way my Steelers going to go, what kind of coach they're going to find. They're going to be a defensive coach, offensive type mind coach. We're going to get a quarterback. Who knows? But anyway, good luck to my Steelers. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's look at the word selfish, because selfish is a word that gets thrown around a lot. Being selfish really means taking something for yourself while hurting or ignoring other people. Think about a selfish supervisor you have at work. You know the type, always talking about growth, numbers, performance, but somehow it only benefits them. They'll push the whole team, take on more, not so the team could get ahead, but so they can look good for leadership. Now that's selfish. And that's selfish, not because they want to move up, but because they're willing to let everybody else carry the weight while they climb the ladder. And that's the difference people miss. Selfishness isn't about wanting more. It's about who pays the price for it. Now here's where it ties back into unwinding. Taking 30 minutes to rest so you don't bring stress home, so you don't snap at other people, so you don't burn out. That doesn't hurt anyone. It helps everyone. That's not selfish. That's self-preservation. You're not stepping on anybody to get there. You're just making sure you don't fall apart while you're trying to hold everything together. When someone says, I feel selfish for taking time to simply rest, what they're really saying is, I don't want to let anyone down, but resting doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't push work onto someone else. It doesn't take from anybody. Rest isn't a reward. It's a requirement. When your mental energy runs low, you don't become more patient. You don't become more loving. You become more reactive. That's why unwinding matters. How many of y'all ever taken a power nap before? I know my military folks already know what I'm talking about. You've been up since the crack of dawn, doing some good military training. You hop on the bus, you get in the back of a truck, lean up on a tree in a few seconds, you're sleeping. Maybe it's for 5 minutes, could be up to 30 minutes. But when you wake up, you feel different. You feel clearer, more energized. You're ready for more training. And that's not being lazy. That's your brain getting what it needs. Think about going to the gym. You're working out. You don't get stronger while you're lifting. You get stronger when you rest. Your muscles needs to recover. Your mind works the same way. All day long, you're lifting mental weight. And depending on your profession, that mental weight can be heavy. Think of unwinding as a recovery set. And just like the gym, if you skip recovery long enough, something's going to break. That's why you got to get in that self-preservation mind frame. And let's talk about something that gets misunderstood a lot. As I just mentioned, self-preservation. Because anytime someone starts taking space, setting boundaries, or resting, the word selfish shows up quickly. And a lot of us internalize that. We start feeling guilty the moment we slow down. Parents especially. We feel bad taking time for ourselves. Like if we're not doing something, we're doing something wrong. But running yourself into the ground, it doesn't make you a better parent. It just makes you tired, short-tempered, and you're checked out. When I take time to unwind, I'm not stepping away from my family. I'm making sure I don't bring the work stress home into my house. Because if I don't reset, the people I love gets leftovers instead of the best of me. But selfishness and self-preservation are not the same thing. Selfish says only I matter. Self-preservation says I matter too. And that's the difference in everything. Every single day, your mind is carrying work stress, family responsibilities, expectations, and deadlines, and all the decisions you make. Even when you're sitting still, your brain is still moving. And if you never give yourself time, to let that weight down, you don't become stronger. You just become worn out. That's when you start snapping over small things. That's when patience disappears. That's when even people you love start feeling overwhelmed. And that's not because of them, but because you're empty. Self-preservation, what happens to step in before you hit that point. It looks like maybe you could take a break without feeling like you need to explain it. It could be choosing quiet when everything feels loud. It looks like saying, I need a minute before I reach that boiling point. Because a protected mind is a clearer mind. When you give yourself space, you think better. You communicate better. You show up calmer and more grounded. And here's the truth most people don't talk about. Ignoring self-preservation doesn't make you stronger. It just delays the burnout. Eventually, your mind will force you to slow down anyway. And that could be through exhaustion, irritability, anxiety, or just feeling numb. So choosing rest ahead of time isn't a weakness, it's awareness. And think about this. We schedule everything. I mean, everything. You schedule meetings, you schedule phone calls, you got all your doctor's appointments, school events, deadlines, and your phone will remind you about everything, about emails, when to pay a bill, even when to stand up and when to stretch. But somehow it never reminds you to sit down and breathe. So maybe that's the shift. If your phone can remind you to grind, it can remind you to rest. If you can remind you to move, it can remind you to pause. But just remember, rest isn't laziness, it's self-respect. It's you saying, I'm not going to run myself in the ground just to prove I'm strong. I'm going to protect my energy so I can keep showing up and not just surviving, but living. Because when you preserve yourself, everybody in your life gets a better version of you. Not a drained one, not a checked out one, a calmer one, a more present one. And that's not selfish. That's responsible. And once you start thinking about self-preservation this way, something else becomes clear. And most of us don't struggle with rest. We struggle with making space for it. We already know we're tired. We know we need a break, but somehow it keeps getting pushed to the bottom of the list. So the real question becomes, how do you make your unwind time happen in a busy life? Not in theory, in real life. And this is where a lot of us get stuck, because it's not that we don't want to take a rest or take a break. It's that everything else feels more urgent. There's always something that feels like it can't wait. What ends up happening is we tell ourselves, I'll rest when things slow down. Things don't slow down. And you already know it. You already know that ain't happening. Things keep coming in. Self-preservation is when you decide that your mental health doesn't get whatever time is left over. It gets time on purpose. And that's not about disappearing for hours. It's about saying, I'm going to protect this 10, 20, 30 minutes the same way I protect a meeting or an appointment, because you never miss a meeting at work that's on your calendar. But personal time, that's the big question. And that's the first thing we cancel. And honestly, we wouldn't treat anyone else this way. Now, don't go to work and tell your supervisor, Corey said I need more breaks throughout the day. Nah, don't do that. But you could tell them about the podcast. Tell them to tune in on Tuesdays. But anyway, if you had a doctor's appointment, you make that happen. You're not going to miss that. You have a meeting at your job, you're not going to miss that. You're going to show up. But when it's time for you to relax, somehow it's optional. And that has to change. Self-preservation is you saying, I matter enough to schedule myself. It might be a walk. It might be a workout. It might be just sitting somewhere in silence. It might be out flying your drone. It might be a power nap. But whatever it is, you put it on the calendar, it becomes real. Because when you protect that me time, you don't just feel better. You think clearer. You react less, and you show up more present for the people around you. And that's not being selfish. That's being smart with your energy. All right, let's switch it up for a second. Before I let you go, I'm wearing my Kobe Bryant Lakers shirt. The Lakers is my favorite NBA team. It's Kobe, and Kobe is one of my favorite NBA players. He ranks second behind Magic Johnson. So let me know who your favorite NBA team is or who your favorite player is. And if this episode brought you some value, made you think, do me a favor, follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use the message. Tell a friend to tell a friend. For show details, follow me on X at controlroom_media. That's Charlie November, Tango Romeo Lima, room_media. You can catch new episodes every Tuesday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by searching 30 Minutes to Unwind. All right. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. And I'll see you next Tuesday. All right. And I'm out.